Dr. Maria Montessori. On January 6, 1907, Maria Montessori, at the age of 36, opened Casa dei Bambini, or Children's House, in Rome. 35 years later, at the anniversary of the Children's House, she described her feelings on that first day. I don't know what came over me, but I had a vision, and, inspired by it, I was inflamed, and said that this work we were undertaking would prove to be very important, and that someday people would come from all over to see it. Maria Montessori was born in 1870 at Chiaravalle, Italy. She died on May 6, 1952, at the age of 81. As a child, she showed great aptitude in mathematics and decided on a career in engineering, but later changed to the study of medicine. Under tremendous criticism, she enrolled in the University of Rome Medical School as the first woman in Italy to do so. After her graduation in 1896, she did postgraduate work in the psychiatric clinic connected with the university. She was influenced by the writings of two physicians who had worked with idiot children, Itard and Sequin. In their writings, she found the answer she was looking for, that these children would be helped with special methods of education. Jean-Marc Gaspard Itard worked for 5 years with a child who was found in 1800 after apparently spending the majority of his childhood alone in the woods. Itard named the boy Victor. Itard was interested in determining what Victor could learn. He devised procedures to teach the boy words. He used texture and large cardboard letters to teach Victor. Based on his work with Victor, Itard broke new ground in the education of the developmentally delayed. Edward Sequin studied medicine under Itard and was interested in penetrating the dark world of idiot children. He had success in an 18-month experiment in which he trained an idiot boy through the use of his senses to speak, write, and count. He developed a series of graduated exercises. Montessori's work with children's mental illnesses motivated her to study education. She returned to the University of Rome, where she studied psychology, anthropology, educational history and philosophy, and pedagogical principles. Montessori studied the ideas of Froebel and Pestalozzi. Froebel applied Pestalozzi's emphasis on nature and the senses to the education of very young children. He was a student of Pestalozzi and laid the foundation for modern education based on the recognition that children have unique needs and capabilities. He created the concept of the kindergarten. In the process of evolving her own thought, Montessori made use of many of Froebel's insights, combining elements of his system with ideas and methods she found in the practice of medicine, the teaching of the deaf and retarded, and the use of techniques from anthropology. Dr. Maria Montessori did envision a radically different approach to education, an approach grounded in close and insightful observations of children, rather than adult convenience and misconception. She was a highly intelligent, scientifically minded woman who herself had been bored in school and decided to address the problem of education with a fresh outlook. She redesigned education from the ground up. In 1901, the mentally retarded children with whom Dr. Montessori had worked passed state educational tests designed for normal children. She wondered why normal children were not doing as well on their tests and observed children in traditional classrooms to decipher why they were not advancing more in that environment. She decided to apply her ideas in the public elementary schools with normal children. Between 1904 and 1908, Montessori lectured, combining insights from pediatric medicine, child psychology, and cultural anthropology, and applied them to children's development and education. Montessori did not receive an elementary class, but in 1907 was given the opportunity to use the ideas she had developed at the Casa dei Bambini, or Children's House. Her first pupils were 50 children, aged 3 to 7, who resided in a slum area of Rome. By closely observing the children that attended the Children's House, she developed a specific curriculum that can be closely followed. The curriculum needed to be situated in a prepared, structured environment. The children within this environment were to be free to explore it and select the materials on which they would work. Within the prepared environment, the materials and activities of the curriculum were those that related to practical life skills, sensory education, language and mathematics, and more general physical, social, and cultural development. Montessori turned to the children themselves to solve the problem of matching their needs and readiness with materials and situations. Her experiences at the Children's House united her theory with her practice. Children's learning is best accomplished in a structured and orderly environment. Table and chairs were sized for children. Storage cabinets were low so children could easily reach materials and be responsible for returning them to their proper place. Montessori saw the teacher as a directress. The directress would guide children as they taught themselves to learn, always being sensitive to children's readiness and stages of development. The directress is responsible for establishing the classroom environment. She observed that when students were allowed to select their own materials, they maintained self-motivation. Self-discipline and self-reliance were the result of students being aware of their own mistakes and repeating a task until they had mastered it. True discipline is self-discipline, was Montessori's belief. The Montessori curriculum included practical life skills, motor and sensory training, language development, physical, social, and cultural development, value formation, and character development. The observations and discoveries by Dr. Montessori from the first Children's House became the blueprint for the Montessori method, used today. Her method is organized to the core. In her book, The Secret of Childhood, she wrote of observations and experiences that influenced her methods. Observing a 3-year-old girl, Dr. Montessori discovered that children's interest in an activity could be maintained for hours. The particular child worked with cylinders, placing them in their slots and then taking them out again 42 times. Her concentration was not broken, even when the other children were instructed to march around her, singing. When the children were offered toys alongside Montessori work, they chose the work and ignored the toys. Although the children in our first school could play with some really splendid toys, none cared to do so. Since a child is constantly growing, he is fascinated by everything that contributes to his development and becomes indifferent to idle occupations. Dr. Montessori brought a sleeping infant into the classroom. "She is not making a sound," I told them, and jokingly I added, "None of you could do so well." To my great surprise, I saw that the children were looking at me with an extraordinary intensity. The children all sat perfectly still, breathing as quietly as possible, having on their faces a serene and intent expression like those who are meditating. This is the origin of our exercise of silence. The exercise of silence is used for language learning, sound discrimination, and practicing silence when moving seats. Discipline and order seemed to occur naturally. The fact that the children could arrange their day as they pleased allowed them to take the objects they wanted for their work. They worked quietly, each one intent on his own particular occupation. They quietly walked to and fro as they took and replaced the objects with which they worked. The children became healthy without any focus on it. It was a natural occurring phenomenon. The Montessori system of education is both a philosophy of child growth and a rationale for guiding such growth. It is based on the child's developmental needs for freedom within limits and a carefully prepared environment which guarantees exposure to materials and experiences through which to develop intelligence as well as physical and psychological abilities. It is designed to take full advantage of the self-motivation and unique ability of young children to develop their own capabilities. The child needs adults to expose him to the possibilities of his life, but the child himself must direct his response to those possibilities. Other areas of her life influenced her choices and her work in education. She also was a militant supporter of social medicine and women's emancipation. Closer studies suggest that the way in which Montessori had so consistently linked medicine and feminism in the 1890s and 1900s provided the starting point for that new pedagogy. Montessori believed that the child's love of knowledge surpasses every other love. Natural motivation for the young learner is intrinsic. His true reward is the joy of discovery and the satisfaction of success. "Help me do it myself" was the message that she had received from the countless children whom she had seen in the Roman slums. Anticipating by nearly 100 years such contemporary approaches to urban education as the American Operation Head Start, Montessori realized the crucial importance that the education of a child's early years held for later success. Today, the Montessori method of teaching is used in classrooms and homes all over the world. The program continues to grow in popularity. Estimates indicate that more than 5,000 schools in the U.S., including 300 public schools and some high schools, use the Montessori program. If schooling were evidence-based, I think all schools would look a lot more like Montessori schools. Two of Montessori's main developmental ideas, that children go through sensitive periods in development and that language is, in a sense, innate, are now mainstream. Montessori's insights came long before Piaget's stages of cognitive development or Chomsky's language acquisition theory. It was important to Montessori that her method be learned and used without deviation. To this end, she began lecturing about, writing about, and teaching her method. She toured America in 1913, giving lectures. She wrote the Montessori Method, and it has been published in 11 languages. In 1914, she published Dr. Montessori's own handbook. 2 volumes, The Advanced Montessori Method, were published in 1918 and 1919. Among Maria Montessori's enduring contributions to education are, first, the clear recognition of the significance of early stimulation on later learning. Second, the concept of sensitive periods or phases of development when certain activities and materials are appropriate to learning specific motor and cognitive skills. Third, the recognition that learning is complex and multifaceted and involves a variety of experiences. And fourth, the recognition that the school must be part of the community and must involve parents if instruction is to be most effective. Her contributions are just as important for children today as they were when they were developed. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 consecutive years, 1949, 1950, and 1951. Dr. Montessori wrote in 1912 about the methods she developed. "Truly, our social life is too often only the darkening and the death of the natural life that is in us. These methods tend to guard that spiritual fire within man, to keep his real nature unspoiled, and to set it free from the oppressive and degrading yoke of society." What would Montessori do today?